Here's the latest on Manchester City's activity ahead of tonight's 7 p.m. transfer deadline. Monday, 1st of September, 2025 Donnarumma deal and more sales. What to expect from Manchester City on deadline day? Manchester City are set for a busy end to the transfer window as they aim to try and trim down Pep Guardiola's squad before tonight's deadline. Manchester City are primed for a potentially busy deadline day at the Etihad, with eyes fixed on whether a new number one could come through the door. City have been active throughout the window, and Director of Football Hugo Viana will be in the thick of the action again until tonight's 7 p.m. deadline. The biggest deals involve a goalkeeper leaving and one coming in. Long-term number. One Ederson has been linked with an exit for nearly 2 months, and having been linked with Galatasaray for most of that time, it is their Turkish rivals Fenerbahce who are now leading the chase for the 32-year-old, who was on the bench at Brighton yesterday. City have been open to letting the 32-year-old leave for several weeks and could cut a deal today, which would allow them to finalise a move for Paris Saint-Germain goalkeeper Gianluigi Donnarumma. The Italian is considered one of the most formidable shot stoppers in the world, but Luis Enrique has axed him from the Champions League winners' squad over concerns that he isn't good enough with the ball at his feet. That hasn't stopped City showing an interest in the 26-year-old who has no future at the Parc des Princes. If Ederson's departure goes through, then the Blues are likely to make their move. But it could be a race against the clock unless City opt to go for Donnarumma before Ederson is sold. The Turkish transfer window doesn't close for another 10 days, and with Fenerbahce now out of Europe, they don't have to register a squad with UEFA by Tuesday. That was the deadline Galatasaray were up against if they went for the Brazilian. Stefan Ortega is another goalkeeper who could be heading for the exit door today. Ever since James Trafford signed from Burnley for £27 million last month, it has been expected that the German would leave. Manuel Akanji and Ilkay Gundogan are also potential departures, despite both being on the bench at Brighton on Sunday. Centre-back Akanji is wanted by Tottenham and other clubs across Europe, while Gundogan is attracting interest from clubs in Turkey and Saudi Arabia. They were left out of the squad to face Tottenham a week ago and have been expected to leave the club this window, with Guardiola keen to trim the size of his squad. Issa Kabore is another who could leave today, either on a permanent deal or another loan. The 24-year-old is surplus to requirements at the Etihad, while loans could be arranged for some academy players. Man City stunned by Brighton's late show as Pep Guardiola endures nightmare start Brighton 2-1. Manchester City. Pep Guardiola's side have been beaten for the second time in the opening 3 Premier League games, as Brighton's late winner saw them overcome a half-time deficit. Brian Gruder rolled home a dramatic late winner as Brighton roared back to stun Manchester City with a thrilling 2-1 victory at the Amex Stadium. Seagulls midfielder Gruder raced clear to calmly finish in the 89th minute after fellow substitute James Milner became the second oldest scorer in Premier League history by converting a penalty against his former club. Erling Haaland stabbed City into a first-half lead on his 100th English top-flight appearance, but also failed to capitalise on a host of other openings. Defeat for Pep Guardiola's side was a second in succession, following last weekend's deflating 2-0 home loss to Tottenham, with Albion jubilantly celebrating a first league victory of the campaign. Rodri made his first league start in almost a year as part of 4 alterations to the City team, which began against Spurs, while Brighton made 3 changes from last Sunday's 2-0 reverse at Everton. Guardiola's men had the better of a tight first-half tactical battle, with Haaland initially squandering a hat-trick of chances. The Norway international fired tamely at Seagulls goalkeeper Bart Verbruggen inside 9 minutes before dragging another opportunity wide of the right post, and then seeing a close-range header pushed away. Between the first and second of those openings, a low shot from Albion winger Kaoru Mitoma was turned behind by City keeper James Trafford. Haaland eventually found his range 11 minutes before the break. After Yankuba Minte was dispossessed by Ryan Aït-Nouri and Oscar Bob drove towards Brighton's 18-yard box, Omar Marmoush bundled his way past Jan-Paul van Hecke and poked through the legs of Lewis Dunk for Haaland to clinically lift the ball over Verbruggen. Brighton were offering little from an attacking perspective and could have fallen further behind with an hour played when the lively Bob threatened to divert home Marmoush's low cross from left. Albion head coach Fabian Hürzeler responded by making a quadruple substitution, including introducing Milner and Gruder, which sparked an instant shift in momentum. Trafford turned over from Minte before referee Darren England pointed to the spot after Dunk's powerfil volley across goal from Yassine Ayari's free kick struck the raised arm of Matheus Nunes. Aged 39 years and 239 days, Milner became Brighton's third penalty taker in as many games and emphatically dispatched his maiden goal for the club into the bottom left corner in the 67th minute. The veteran midfielder, who last found the net in Liverpool's 4-0 win at Leicester on Boxing Day 2019, paid tribute to former Reds teammate Diogo Jota, whose number 20 shirt he has adopted this season, with his celebration. Teddy Sheringham, aged 40 years and 268 days, is the only older player to have scored a Premier League goal. Brighton swiftly became the dominant team. Trafford superbly clawed away the ball to keep out Van Hecke's deflected effort in the 88th minute before Gruder sparked wild celebrations. The German midfielder, who scored in Albion's midweek 6-0 Carabao Cup success at Oxford, burst onto Mitoma's through ball and then coolly rounded Trafford to slot into the unguarded net. Here's a clear summary of the current transfer situation at Manchester City and Pep Guardiola's call for change regarding the timing of the transfer window. Pep Guardiola wants transfer window change as Manchester City prepare for deadline day. Manchester City are expected to be active on deadline day, but the end of the transfer window is complicated by their long trip to Brighton. Manchester City will try to finalise a series of transfer deals over the final 2 days of the window as they rush to trim Pep Guardiola's squad before Monday's 7 p.m. deadline. The attempts to sell players such as Manuel Akanji and Ilkay Gundogan, and the uncertainty over a move for goalkeeper Ederson and bringing Gianluigi Donnarumma in as a replacement have added to a sense of confusion around the Etihad. By the time the window shuts, City will have played 3 Premier League games. The opening of the campaign is disrupted for many clubs by the ongoing attempts to do deals and the noise that comes with a modern transfer window. It has had a particular effect on City's goalkeeping department, with uncertainty over who will stay and go and who will be the first choice this season. Guardiola refused to blame those issues for last week's defeat to Tottenham, but said